Civo could be like your primary cloud provider. And then when you think of it from a cost and utilization perspective, it would be far less than what you would have to be worrying about with respect to some of the major cloud providers. Hey everyone. My name is Marino. I am a developer advocate for Solo. It's great to be here and just talking about, how I use Civo for my daily job and how I like take advantage of some of the cool features built within the Civo cloud. One of the things that I tend to gravitate towards is like simplicity. So if I'm trying to get started on something, there are a variety of barriers in order to get, let's say, a Kubernetes cluster up and running. So, for example, like if I were to hop on one of the major cloud providers, there's a bunch of hoops that I'm having to hop through before I get to that Kubernetes cluster that I want. So, the allure of Civo is that within minutes, or even I think less than 90 seconds, I can have a Kubernetes cluster up and running for my testing purposes, or this might even be a target for someone that is trying to do some sort of canary deployment, or they're doing some extensive testing on their end. But yeah, I use it. I take advantage of what's available from a tool set standpoint. And not only that, like, I think, it's really helpful to have as part of your tool set or tool chain in your overall like role, whatever you're doing, whether it's advocacy, whether you're in a consulting role, or even if you're in like let's say a pre-sales role for that matter, because one of the things to consider is the speed of deployment. When you're trying to get that demo up and running, you don't want to be sitting there waiting 15 minutes for, let's say, a gateway to be deployed, followed by like maybe a virtual network, followed by like route tables, followed by VPC stuff, followed by like the actual cluster being stood up. When you can make it happen within minutes, it's pretty cool. Yeah, so here at Solo, we're focused on a few technologies that are based off of the Envoy proxy. What we do is we actually provide abstractions for service mesh, or for the Istio service mesh, which already provides the abstractions for Envoy. So in our situation, or in my job, sometimes I have to stand up a management cluster where I'll house my glue mesh components, or my glue mesh management plane. And then I'll go about deploying workload clusters wherever, either in Civo or, let's say, like some other cloud provider. But the idea is, I know that I can get like a necessary platform to be able to run that management plane, and then from there be able to deploy, let's say, my glue mesh agents. And then this also further enables me to start pushing out specific abstraction configs. So, for example, in the world of glue mesh, we have something called a traffic policy, which actually is a CRD in Kubernetes that gets translated into Istio resources, more specifically a virtual service and a destination rule. So one of the beautiful things about how glue mesh does it is, I'll just create a single YAML file, and that YAML file will actually spark the creation of more YAMLs that get pretty much honored by the Istio control plane. But this is pretty easy to work with. Now, in my case, working with Civo, for me, it's about speed, right? Like how quickly I can get that demo up and running, how quickly I can make modifications, how easy it is to actually navigate the UI. That's like of critical importance to me. And so like I normally gravitate towards using Civo for my demos, or for any sort of immediate testing that I might need to do. More notably, I've been like trying to test out eBPF capabilities within Civo Cloud. I'm trying to work really hard to get customers to embrace Civo more as a potential cloud provider or a destination for some of their workloads. Because when I think about the world of cloud, it's not just about a unique cloud strategy anymore. You're going to be having to pick and choose from a variety of different platforms. And I honestly think that if you try to put all your eggs in one basket, you're going to run into issues down the line, or you're going to have to face the consequences of a major outage, which we've already seen with some of the cloud providers anyways. The spread is much nicer. Going the multi-cloud approach is much nicer. And not only that, like Civo is a very niche cloud in my opinion. And what that really truly means is you're giving off a catered experience to the consumers. It's like your experience is more directed to the actual consumers of the platform. Whereas like if I presented you with the AWS console, oh my gosh, you're pretty much like having to scrape through all the different types of offerings to really just find what you're looking for. When in reality, all I want is a Kubernetes cluster and maybe like a couple of VM instances where I can do some additional testing, where I can maybe demonstrate something like a migration from a monolithic app to a set of microservices. And I would use like service mesh to front end that. So there are a variety of things that I use Civo for. When I actually think about like the use cases beyond like the regular cloud ones, Civo could be like your primary cloud provider. And then when you think of it from a cost and utilization perspective, it would be far less than what you would have to be worrying about with respect to some of the major cloud providers. But not only that, like you have the flexibility to be able to say, I'm going to use some Civo and then I'll burst up to other clouds, or the other way around. Maybe I've already started using, let's say, another major cloud provider, and then I've decided, hey, I want to spread my workloads elsewhere. Civo appears to be a great target, and I can do this pretty easily with something like service mesh because of what service mesh offers from a traffic management perspective. So using like some of these principles, I've been testing these things out on the back end, and it's actually really cool. Like it offers a lot of flexibility for what you're trying to do. I'm not a traditional developer, so I don't create apps on like any of the cloud providers or anything like that. But for my purposes as a Kubernetes operator, I mean, it's exactly what I need. One of the particular use cases that I would want to drive a little bit more is like the usage of a cloud provider that ties into a marketplace much more seamlessly. So the approach that you have with Civo is like, I'll give you a platform and then you can go build extensibility on top of that. And that's a powerful use case because it offers you up a hybridity of like management, meaning like you have someone that's going to always support the efforts of what you're deploying, but also the flexibility to kind of layer in your own plugins into that Kubernetes ecosystem. And that's very powerful for I'd say, consumers that really want to have that customized experience without all that extra complexity. They can take a very simple route. And so when I think about like Civo and the ties to the marketplace, like you've curated a catalog that effectively will give you all the necessary bits, whether it be an ingress resource, whether it be like a storage CSI provider, whether it be like a CNI plugin, whatever it is, or even a database offering for that matter. It's there. It's not like I have to go search like some of the other cloud provider services and then find a way to connect it. No, I'm basically doing everything from the lens of Kubernetes because this is the cloud native approach. Like I'm looking at Civo as someone that offers me a cloud, but is so cloud native oriented that it allows me to reach my business goals a lot faster. So when I think about Civo, it really maps back to like the agility and speed of deployment. And that actually translates back down to reduced costs for time to provisioning, for runtime, and even like overall utilization. Like when you think about the costs comparatively across other cloud providers, Civo is obviously the most cost efficient choice there. So from a business standpoint, if you're looking to save money if you're also looking to speed up your deployment cycles, Civo's the way to go.